They got to safety, made some repairs, fought off more sea terrors. Things seem to be going well for those trapped in another world. Yeah. Amir noticed that there was something going on in that village. Sinclair heard people shouting and hollering. Dante saw that they returned to the village, the ship repairs completed, and they were welcomed by a rather hostile standoff. There was approximately 20 people assembled at the village square. Considering its population, that's the whole village. Dante asked who was that over there, and it looks like Monty Python was right. No one expects the Inquisition, as Mears identified one of them as an Inquisitor. They'd been found. Dante saw that this Inquisitor, dressed in a well-kept uniform, was the same height as Don Quixote. The sword and the lamp hanging from her waist sat in contrast. Yes. It sat in stark contrast with a rundown village. She looked almost like a fixer from the city. The chief saw that the Inquisition had discovered their village. The Inquisitor asked if he really thought that they could forever stay out of the Inquisition's gaze. Seeing this as a naive dream, she identified the chief as Fabius. He disappeared from the Inquisition mid-interrogation under charges of suspicion of membership within the Church of the Deep. He was silent at this, as she continued by saying that his last known location was Salt Flat. The other Inquisitors have informed her that he has been identified next to pirates in its fringes, from a criminal to an outlaw. Seeing this as a dramatic evolution of his career, she sees it as ending there. Every citizen there, including him, will be accompanying her to the Inquisition. Fabius protested, as they weren't like him. They've broken no laws, nor were they outlaws. As far as she's concerned, not wanting to live under the Inquisition's authority and evading the gaze of Iberia, hiding there is reason enough. Was she supposed to not find that suspicious? Sinclair asked, what were they talking about? She can't just start arresting people left and right with a tenacious suspicion like that. One of the villagers told her that they just want to live a quiet life. She told them that they might find themselves returning to that village one day, as long as they're telling the truth. Which isn't an option for Fabius. Sinclair asked Mears if her grandfather was a pirate. She confirmed this, but as far as she was aware, he was out of it for a while, and even when he ran with them, all he did was share fin beast jerky to villagers, or carry Igerians between them. Amir doubted that the Inquisition would be lenient, regardless of whether she's honest or not. Dante asked, what now? Urutis had something to ask. Was the Inquisitor following the proper legal procedures? Amir didn't know much about the laws of Iberia, but Dr. kal'tsit told them that the word of Inquisitor was pretty much the law there. Faro saw that it was likely that the Inquisitor was following the proper legal procedures, which the villagers had fled from. Urutis saw this as decided, then Urutis dragged Dante to the side and whispered outside of Meir's hearing. This was picked up by those right next to them, advising them that they should return to the ship, take command of it and sail out on their own, seeing it as unwise to involve themselves in that conflict. Heathcliff was basically saying, No! To that! Asking if they're seriously suggesting that they just let them arrest the villagers? Woodis asked if he heard what the Inquisitor said. It was cut and dry to her. If this is standard procedure with no local laws broken, they shouldn't get involved. They should take the ship before that's impounded as well. Sinclair didn't feel that they should do that, even if it's standard procedure, and they are working within the law. She stayed to hear Mayor's story as well. Sinclair reminded her that N-Corp Inquisitors were working within the law as well when they came for call. That was standard procedure. Yeah, N-Corp likely needed to make a deal with K-Corp before they could wipe out Col, a place that dealt in prosthetics, where massacre there increased K-Corp's market share. Disturbing images for the source of their singularity, and they have N-Corp be the one that did that, so that K-Corp couldn't have that pinned to them. If anyone, someone had stepped in then. Woodis knew his history, but she'd rather not take a risk in an unfamiliar environment. She would try her best to figure out how to sail that ship. If she can't, she'll have faith in Ishmael to quickly learn its controls. Ishmael was uncertain. Neither of them know anything about the ocean currents there. They can get the ship going, but she can't guarantee that they'll reach the dimensional door without any trouble. Mares was silent at this. Woodis asked if she knew anything about the sea currents in that region. Mares didn't know much. She somewhat knows the coastal sea. They can't fight the Inquisitor directly there in Iberia. Likely because if they kill her, more Inquisitors would come. As in, come in greater numbers. Fleeing with the ship might be the better option. Ishmael asked Dante what should they do. Dante saw that it was awkward for them to just take the ship and go. Honglu suggested that they try to talk to the Inquisitor. Hear them out first. Amir believed that the discussion went well. Well, if it went well, they might even be able to get the Inquisition's support, agreeing that Honglu has the right idea, hear them out, then try to convince them. Dante agreed with both of them regarding this. Ryushi said, ah. Sinclair translated that as, rabbits right. Yisang asked if Sinclair's translation was accurate. Rodya agreed as Ryushu doesn't normally choose anything that doesn't involve violence. Ryushi saw them as idiots. It was because the other option was pointless. The Inquisitor saw them. They're already under suspicion. They'll try to stop them if they flee now. Talk first, lower her guard, then attack. Dante didn't think that this was what Amir meant. If the Inquisitor was already onto them, they shouldn't give her any excuse to attack them by running away. She then approached them, wondering what they were doing there, lurking in the background. Seeing a clock-shaped head, asking if they're from the Columbian Union. Amir explained that they were wearing a clock for a head due to reasons, but they have no affiliation with the Columbian Union. Dante wanted to know what they were. The Inquisitor didn't know what Dante was saying, although she understood that they weren't from Iberia or even that village. Sinclair confirmed this and believed that there's been a bit of a misunderstanding. The Inquisitor was certain that that he doesn't know the villagers enough to stand between them and her, asking how long he's been staying there. He answered 2 days. Gregor told him not to just tell her that. This seemed to anger her, telling them to get out of her way. Yisang saw this attempt was on unstable ground. It often is with religious zealots. Amia then asked the Inquisitor to hear them out. She was Amia, leader of Rhodes Island. She's aware of Iberia's closed border situation. The hope that Dante had that this would improve the situation was short-lived. Mildly annoyed at what they were about to witness, the Inquisitor sees not only outsiders of dubious origin, but illegal entry as well. Amia told her that they had to. The issue demanded urgency, and apparently she'd been briefed. She didn't know how urgent that issue could be, but she doubted that it's anything more significant than the situation at hand for Iberia and its Inquisition. The High Inquisitor is handling the Rhodes Island issue, telling her to stay put and await the consequences while he and the chatty medical doctor talks it out. Her treatment may depend on her negotiation skills. Amia made it clear that she understands that she had the right to arrest them. Or rather, arrest Fabius, as he's a fugitive who has fled in the middle of an interrogation and was sailing with pirates. She saw it as inhumane to arrest the rest of them as well. The Inquisitor saw it as well within the rights bestowed upon the Inquisition. They've lived for years next to a highly suspicious Aegir. The Inquisition must investigate the rest of them as well to verify whether they've committed any acts of treason against their laws. Gregor isn't seeing this as going anywhere. The Inquisitor tells them that they've been surviving for years by the coast without the protection of the Inquisition, where it simply doesn't make sense to her. So a belief that without the protection of the Inquisition, they die, or worse. Or is it due to something that we're not currently aware of? Heathcliff, at this point, lost patience, having heard enough. Seeing it as funny how she's blaming them for what is essentially a failure of her responsibilities. Then she shows up there, only to go, "They shouldn't be alive, I'm resting them all," asking if they should all be dead. The Inquisitor was... well, there's no other way of putting it. People shouldn't be able to survive in a place like that, not for that long. This only made Heathcliff more wrathful. He was striding towards with his bat ready to strike, seeing that as it, telling her that if she even touches a villager's hair. Honglu tried to calm him, while stepping between them. Heathcliff was clearly off, telling her to get her hands off him. He's clearly lost patience with her. Honglu understood that threatening her will cause something irrevocably bad to happen. And Heathcliff would know all about that, likely referring to Earl King Heathcliff, where his rage consumed him. It could also mean that what Virgilius discouraged at the start of their journey. Heathcliff asked, what did he suggest then? They're clearly not making any progress by trying to talk that out. It was clear that Honglu wanted to try that, seeing his more sophisticated approach as possibly more suitable for this. He politely asked what she meant by saying that people shouldn't be able to survive in a place like that. She meant it literally. Even by some miracle that they actually do survive, they should at least be suffering from endless hunger, struggling to their wits' end at the inevitability of the calamity. But it looks so healthy. Rodia couldn't understand this attitude. She couldn't understand at all. She should be applauding them for managing to survive through so much hardship. She told them that she's an inquisitor, not some crazy person on a power high who goes around accosting and arresting citizens of Iberia straight to the gallows. Offenders is even such an implication. She's had more than enough probable cause to take them in for interrogation. She just doesn't have the time or the energy to explain every single one of them to them. She promises a fair judgment, whichever way that might be, after a proper investigation. She then demanded that they stop this obstruction of justice, clearly sounding frustrated, making it clear that her rapier is not just for show. Faust then cautioned Dante. Without a full picture, she advised against further antagonization of the local authority. Honglu agreed with her, as he had a feeling that she wasn't the kind of heartless inquisitor that goes around indiscriminately executing innocents, like Mayers said, which seems to contradict her story, at least partially. Well, she's definitely not the psychotic kind of inquisitor that NCORP has when they dealt with Kor. Dante couldn't deny this. Getting in her way is most likely a bad idea. The Inquisitor didn't see it as her job to answer their questions, threatening to take action if they continue to obstruct her. The standoff had no signs of ending. Amia saw that Mayers was making her presence clear. She offered to answer her questions, telling them to do as the Inquisitor says. Don Quixote asked what about her grandfather and the villagers. Mayers said that this was alright. This is only happening because the Inquisitor doesn't know. Otis asked what she meant by that. Mayers then made it clear what questions she would answer. Questions about the profound silence. This surprised the Inquisitor. Mayers added that this was the calamity that destroyed Iberia. Okay, as for the Colombian Union, they're a federal republic under a democratic institution with the president on top. At least on paper. Although the president was elected back into office due to popularity. More times than you'd think. Where it's putting into question how democracy limits the power of that head of state, doesn't it? They're more open-minded when it comes to other races. From what we can tell, they're a Victorian colony that's declared independence with Gaulish support. Victoria is essentially Britain with cat people. Colombia being America, and Gaul being France. Yeah, it's on paper one for equality where even the infected are treated equally. But in reality, they're exploiting the infected. The Inquisitor had her full attention on Mayers, who went on to say that decades ago, a great wave ravaged through Iberia, where it wasn't long before the Seaborns, carried by those waves, diminished Iberia's brilliant civilization to what it was now. Faust deduced that the waves and the profound silence must have reduced this village that they were in to the condition it's in now. Ishmael wanted to know why it was called the profound silence. It didn't seem appropriate to call such a calamity that. Mayers made it clear that it was because the sea went dead, silent, before the waves came. The silence claimed ships out of sea, then the cities of Iberia, then the Iberians. none could say a word in the face of that ineffable calamity. The Inquisitor asked what she was. No average Iberian citizen should know any of that. It's clear that she's not Iberian. Yeah, she's Aegir. Mayers then continued by saying that the Church of the Deep was capitalizing on the pandemonium that followed the profound silence, pretending to be Aegir from the sea, deluding the citizens, sowing chaos within it. Gregor understood that this was the reason for the persecution of the Aegir. He didn't exactly approve, as this policy didn't distinguish between those that was part of the Church of the Deep and those that weren't. Mayers understood that she would want to arrest her kind. The Inquisitor was silent at this. Amir cautioned Dante as if something explosive was about to happen. Dante understood enough that sharing that info was a taboo-like thing as far as the Inquisition was concerned. They saw that the Inquisitor was wordlessly staring at Mayers. Her eyes filled with traces of anger and confusion. But Amir noticed that she was afraid as well. Dante saw that this fear was in the face of a threat, something that must be destroyed. She told them that a High Inquisitor once told her that should she come across an Aegir who knows too much, there is a sliver of a chance that they might be of assistance to Iberia. Don Quixote wasn't going to let her threaten the innocent with her firearm. Wait, firearm? The Inquisitor believed that most were seduced by the allure of the sea and so their foes, and Dante didn't like where this was going. The Inquisitor gave a final warning to Don Quixote, telling her to get out of the way. Dante told everyone to run. Rodia was way ahead of them, slinging Mayers over her shoulder and ran past the villagers, while the rest of the damned dozen scattered in all directions to distract the Inquisitor, who drew her firearm as Don Quixote charged at her without hesitating to do so. Dante didn't intend for her to do that. Don Quixote told her to go no farther. A fixer of justice won't allow persecution. She saw that battle as one that could only be postponed. Seconds away before they made a new enemy, another said, "Monster," and a large obsidian crystallization in the shape of a monster burst forth between the two of them, which was summoned by a cat girl. The Inquisitor asked, who was it this time? The cat girl saw this as enough meaningless bickering. Amir saw her as Dr. kal'tsit, Rhodes Island, medical department. Then she alerted Dr. kal'tsit to something behind her. The Inquisitor shot her firearm. Dr. kal'tsit wasn't surprised by this shoot first, talk later attitude. The negotiations were over. From that moment onward, Rhodes Island is now operating within legal capacity on Iberian territory under the Inquisition's authorization. Dante saw that the firearm of the Inquisitor blasted the monster that Dr. kal'tsit summoned. It managed to deflect that shot. The cannonball thrown from the firearm punched clean through the wall of the building that they stayed the night in, before punching through several other buildings behind it. That was enough to catch everyone's attention. Yi Sang was shocked by that firearm penetrating that building. The walls might be weaker than the head standard for what counts as a building exterior wall, but to punch through so many is... Ryushu saw it as making a precise point. Sinclair didn't see this as a time to stand around and breast. Yi Sang saw this as a violation of a taboo to have that much penetrating power in a firearm. Otis reminded them that they are not in the city, so there's nothing to worry about. taboos don't apply there. Yeah, if it was in the city, the head would likely hunt down the one that possessed that weapon. Yi Sang understood that, but it's not something that he can easily dismiss. Faust told them that this was enough. Faust found it advisable to carefully observe and grasp the situation at hand instead of focusing on taboos that don't apply there. Gregor saw the situation was getting slightly better. Roger saw that if Amia is her friend, she's their ally. Seeing what looked like a powerful prosthetic gear. Monster made a sound, and Dr. kal'tsit asked if that's what they thought, apologizing for the disappointment. She's not on anyone's side. In fact, she's closer to Inquisitor Irene's her ally, rather than theirs. And Amir wanted to talk about this, and Dr. kal'tsit pointed out Dante in the Damned Dozen, saying that as much as she wants to deny this, the Inquisitor's suspicions are true. While the process that the conclusion was made with was unfair, in this case, the conclusion was correct. Amia asked if they're actually connected to the Church of the Deep. Dr. kal'tsit corrected her. They aren't connected to the Church of the Deep. They are the Church of the Deep. That village is a dilapidated church. Mez was surprised by this. Dante asked Faust on what she thought of this. Faust didn't have a lot to work with, but if Dr. kal'tsit came to the same conclusion, it brings the accused defense into question. Don Quixote couldn't believe that Mez was lying to them. Heathcliff wanted to know this. They've been talking with the Inquisition. How do they know that they weren't aligned with them this whole time? Dr. kal'tsit saw them as completely in the dark, suspecting that they might be from the other side of the dimensional door. She didn't see it as necessary for them to know. Truth is unchanging without the acceptance from the errant group of outsiders. Besides, soon, then Fabius apologized for bringing them into this. Don Quixote didn't see it as necessary. They won't let this injustice happen. Fabius understood that the village has been identified by the Inquisition, and the Inquisition has even brought an ally. Words are unlikely to resolve that conflict. He promised that they'll take full responsibility for what is done. They've benefited too much from their warmth and kindness to do so. Then, Dante saw that Fabius pulled a dagger from his cloth. Dante knew what Dr. kal'tsit was about to say. Then Sinclair said that they didn't have to go as far as take responsibility, only to be stabbed in the back. Yeah. Stabbed in the back, which caught Heathcliff off guard, and Fabius told them that they're departing for the sea. Yet they can't just leave them there, so he asked them to join them as their bloodkin. Mears asked what he was doing, telling him to stop. Dante didn't see this coming, struggling to accept this ambush. It didn't end there. Ishmael was stabbed as well. Urtis realized that the Inquisitor was right, then Massault was stabbed. They even came for Dante as well. Amia was alerted to the danger around her. Then Dante warned that one of them was to her left. She then materialized a black ribbon-like apparition that parried away the dagger flying in their direction. But another villager rushed in to take advantage of that opening. But the back of that village made a crunching noise. Dante understood that someone flung them away. It was Skadi. He didn't mean to be that late. Amia wanted to catch up to speed. But Skadi knew the fishy smell was what she went to investigate earlier. Dante wanted to know about the others. While they and Amia survived the initial ambush, the others were not so fortunate. Inquisitor Irene and Dr. kal'tsit was quick to understand the situation. and made them lesser targets for the villagers. Roger didn't see that coming. There was no hostility or aggression. Fabius didn't see this as hostile. They didn't intend to kill them. They're simply trying to give them a form better suited for the sea. Until they were obstructed. Yi Sang apologized for their unfamiliarity. It caused Irene trouble. Irene didn't hold it against them. Certainly not as much as she could have done. She saw it as more unforgivable that they tried to take advantage of their ignorance to flee the Inquisition, seeing them as victims of deceit rather than willing allies to their twisted mission. She saw any lives lost on Iberian soil as her responsibility. She was sorry that it came to that. Yi Sang didn't like how that was worded. Ishmael wanted to know what she meant. She was stabbed, but it wasn't lethal. Dr. Kal'tsit saw this as unfortunate. Dante didn't know why that was. Dr. Kal'tsit told them that those that got stabbed by them would either die or turn into seaborns. The dagger was laced with the flesh of sea terrors. Most die, but those that survive, their cells are overwritten, becoming nothing more than another sea monster. This was initially troubling, but then they realized that this was a temporary setback. Only Dante and the damned dozen knew this, though. All they needed was to turn the clock for them. They didn't know if this was possible if they were fully transformed into seaborns. While the golden bar protected them from the pallid whale's pallidification, they had no idea if the same applied to the seaborn infection. Dante came to the conclusion that they had to kill them before they turned. Amia said that this must be hard for them. Then what Dante said registered to her. Dante apologized for that, wanting them to kill their friends in the least painful way possible. If it's possible. Amia was shocked by this. Dante asked if it was too much to ask. Amia told them not to give up already. If they can take them back to Rhodes Island, they should be able to do something to help them. Dante struggled to explain this, asking the others if they can. Rodia wanted to, but she was in no shape to do so. Massault felt that his strength had deteriorated since the ambush. Honglu felt tingly, suspecting that a paralytic cocktail was used. He would know about something about toxins, considering the assassination attempts. Dante told Amia to trust them on this occasion. They're not giving up on them. Amia was about to protest, then Dr. Kal'tsit asked if she could understand Dante. Amia confirmed that she could. It was just a difficult request. They wanted her to kill their friends before they transformed into seaborns. Skadi didn't hesitate to do so, having decapitated all of them. They didn't resist, knowing what Dante was planning. This caught Amia by surprise. Irene wanted to know what they were doing. Skadi was surprised by this. Dante told her not to worry. This is how they did things. Then Dante inverted time, making their heads reattach and the blood come back in. They felt like their heads were severed, rewinding in isolation, asking if it's going back in time or defying time itself. Yes, she was asking this. And Dante felt the combined pain of all 12 of them having their heads cut off. There was also pain in the heart, a deep crushing isolation. Amia was shocked at their wounds disappearing. Dr. Kal'tsit was unsure if this was resurrection, metamorphosis, or time inversion. She had no frame of reference for this technology. The cost being the pain being transferred to the one that rewinds, seeing this as a price too small for such great power, but calling it a power is a matter for debate. Dante couldn't stop shaking. All of their limbs were trembling from the icy solitude. They snapped out of it and then ordered the others. They didn't know what they were thinking, but they should be able to find out once they take them down. Urtis was not happy with their deceit and their attempting to take down Dante. Don Quixote wanted to make them pay for their mockery of justice. Rodia wasn't going to let this slide. Fabius saw this as unfortunate. He had high hopes that all of them would become fine bloodkins. The cultists then fought the damned dozen. The Church of the Deep. They're a cult that worships the Seaborn. They're heavily influenced by their hive mind, often reduced to being mindless drones to the will of it, often using elements of the Iberian religion as part of it. They've even infiltrated the Aegean government, which makes them hard to root out. They make others into their own by feeding them food spiked with seaborne cells, which is why they offered dried fish to the damned dozen. Well, most likely. Or, in the case of what just happened there, stabbing them in a non-lethal area. They're seen as heretics to the Inquisition. Dr. Kal'tsit. Now, she's a ranged summoner and healer. She summons monster who can take the beating and dish it out, but the defense is quite low, if too far from her. Now, she's a biomechanical android that has feline characteristics, likely based on the cat people of Victoria. She's in charge of the medical projects. Well, she has a variety of subjects in her head. Now, the Seaborn, they have a comparison between them and the Blood Fiends. Both can procreate by infecting humans. Both are seen as the enemy by uninfected humans. But there's a difference between them. It's that Blood Fiends are likely made by the abnormality Nosferatu, at least before the White Nights and Dark Days. Where while the Source can make as many Blood Fiends as it likes, each kindred can only make 2 kindred at any one time. Each district, at least before Chapter 7, has an elder, likely the first kindred that rules their family and governs their actions. While they can't harm the first kindred, well, each of the kindreds can't harm any elder kindreds, as in those that are of a earlier generation, as that's seen as filial impiety, one of the worst things that a blood fiend can do to each other. They can maintain their own will. They also have hemokinetic abilities, along with immense strength and agility, as long as they're well fed with blood, which also maintains a healthy and indeed youthful appearance. Although the predatory bloodthirst can be a problem at times. That and the blood has to be, well, fresh from the victim to be any good at sustaining them. They also have a connection. Yes, I'll confirm that while they have a connection to each other, where they maintain their own will, they can't normally act against an older kindred. I can confirm that much. The Seaborn, on the other hand, can make as many as they can. They can also evolve rapidly, and they have a hive mind that treats all that are their kind as equals. They're also a distinct species rather than something closer to a distortion, as Dante would put it. On a basic level, they exist as plankton, then the sea terrors, which also feeds on this plankton when larger prey isn't available. The sea terrors can also evolve into sea monsters, which are more dangerous. Now, Dr. kal'tsit would be illegal in the city, as she's an AI. This is considering that the head tried to prevent Angela's creation and even tried to destroy Angela. Thankfully, Dr. kal'tsit has no such worries in that world. The cultists not only inflict sinking and gain final power depending on the sinking of the target, but they gain coin power depending on how much bind is on the target with one of their attacks, which can also inflict paralysis. Another attack inflicts nervous impairment, and they heal 3 SP for each surviving cultist, gain 2 haste if no damage is taken, and does up to 50% more damage depending on how fast they are, compared to the targets. But they're weak to all except Wrath, Lust and Envy. Fabius, with his hentai powers, is weak to Sloth, Gluttony, Gloom and Pride, and is similar to his cultist, except he inflicts more nervous impairment and can apply haste and attack power-up next turn to allied cultists. He had more opportunities to inflict nervous impairments. And his block has a shield that, if it has anything in it, he gains 2 attack power-up. He has 5 Sea Terror Assimilation, where instead of offense level and defense level down, he gains offense and defense level up. He also heals 3 SP for each surviving ally. The shield, if it's there, can also inflict 2 sinking. After fighting off the cultists, Dante noticed that the others were heading to... Dr. kal'tsit thought that they were running into a dead end, asking if they seek refuge at sea. Ishmael, understanding that it's where the ship was, where they're headed. They want to board that vessel to escape. She wanted to know how they knew it was ready. It was obvious even to Heathcliff. The whole village was in on it, so they likely sent a spy on them, or they knew how to get it moving, even if it's in a broken state. Irene didn't know what they were talking about. Yisang told her that it was Rebellion de las Masas. It was moored at the port in that direction. But Fabius and those that followed him had already boarded the ship and were slowly departing, with a horde of sea monsters, or sea terrors to be more precise, between them and the 3 factions. Otis asked how a vessel of that size became operational so fast. Irene identified that ship as one that was made during the Golden Age of Iberia. She asked how they're supposed to chase that. Honglu asked if they could build a raft and row after them. Even Heathcliff thought that was a stupid idea. Skadi saw that as unworkable, as the sea was full of sea terrors. It would get not that far before it sank. Amia thought of something. Dante asked if they saw something in that direction that she was looking. The sea showed that the ship disappeared into the mist. Yes. They also saw that, and the village was devoid of anyone living there, as though they planned their getaway. Only mares remained. Heathcliff asked if they can't just take any ship to go after it. Ishmael didn't think that a research vessel could go very fast. Irene saw this as difficult. She was sure that this research vessel was constructed during the Golden Age of Iberia. No average ship, at least no modern ship, could keep up with it. At least none available in Iberia currently. They have small vessels that won't match their speed, and they're anchored too far from their location. Amia asked if there are any other options. Dr. kal'tsit Didn't think so, unless they can identify the exact location of the vessel. Irene saw this as a problem. While they can find a ship to go after them, most eyes of Iberia, the lighthouses, were lost during the profound silence. Ishmael understood this to mean that there are some left. Irene knows only of one, Gran Faro, but Dr. kal'tsit finished that by saying that it can't be used at that moment. Mears knew of another. This caught Dante's attention, as it did Amir's. Irene was less She was less trusting, due to a combination of prejudice against Aegir and what happened recently. Don Quixote reminded her that Skadi confirmed that she's safe. Skadi corrected that by saying that she's not a Seaborn. It's unclear if she's a cultist. Don Quixote couldn't deny this. Dante understood that once Mears was left on her own, they decided to have her accompany them at all times to keep her within Irene's field of vision. Who could blame her for what happened, as Skadi confirmed that she's not connected to the Seaborn, they also left her behind. She saw the problem with the Aegir is that she knows too much. How could she possibly know all this? Mears didn't answer. Irene saw this as confirmation of her suspicions. Dante thought that, they thought about this in a different way. What if they were to ask what they didn't know? Such as where that lighthouse was. Dr. kal'tsit wanted a translation, which Amir provided. Dr. kal'tsit saw this as reasonable, asking if Irene has a better plan. She didn't. She was willing to hear her out, not wanting to interrogate her about what even Inquisitors didn't know. At least not right now. Mears called that village Faro Muerta, a dead lighthouse, off the coastline. It was a largely intact eye of Iberia. It was almost destroyed when the profound silence swept through. Ishmael asked if it wasn't connected to the land. Mears said that it was in the past, but it sank. Dr. kal'tsit believed that they could gather enough wood from the village to build a raft, asking if it's near enough for a raft to be the means of access. Mears didn't see the weather as great that day, but it'll get them there. It's not far from the coast. Irene couldn't believe that she was trusting the Aegir. Dr. kal'tsit had no reason not to. She understood the Iberian mistrust of Aegir is quite profound, but it's not something that affects the rest of them, asking Irene what she felt when she saw the Rhodes Island operator, referring to Amir, who was a cultist. Irene felt nothing in particular, besides mild annoyance when she accused her of being inhumane. Dr. kal'tsit asked if she didn't feel hostile or disgust, nor sympathy or empathy. Irene thought Dr. kal'tsit had no history of feeling for or against the Aegir. The same can be said for Limbus Company. Heathcliff wanted to know what she was on about. Faust told him that regarding Mears, their opinions are more objective than others. Dr. kal'tsit understood that finding the vessel that Fabius commandeered would be of benefit to all of them. Limbus Company gets back to their universe via the dimensional door. Rhodes Island studies the dimensional door close up. The Inquisition gains possession of the vessel in which the technology from the Iberian Golden Age is contained. Irene was surprised by her willingness to just hand over that vessel to the Inquisition. Dr. kal'tsit saw no reason to keep what was Iberia's, helping Iberia to reclaim what was lost. Faust made it clear that while she's interested in the vessel, she already has a masterpiece called Mephistopheles. As long as it's guaranteed, she has no reason to refuse, agreeing to go along with that. Ortis was thankful that they have similar business. Dante saw it as easier than in the city. In the city, it would have taken 3 to 4 free distortion hunts to come to an agreement. Amia asked Mayers to lead them to the lighthouse. She was happy to do so. Rodia asked what her definition of almost destroyed was. Mayers heard that the light faded from the lighthouse long ago, but the shape stands. At least it was a few months ago. Irene saw that if the lighthouse was inoperable, they're going to need an expert technician to get it back to working order. The technology was not based on the popular application of Originium technology. She doubted that there's anyone out there who could work it anymore. Then, Otis told her that she needn't worry about that. They have an engineer and a researcher who were geniuses, even among those in the city, so they should be able to manage most mechanical failures. Likely referring to Yisang and Faust, Irene was getting revelation after revelation. Amir backed them up on that one. Mayors can work on the simpler tasks. She learned from her grandfather regarding the lighthouse and various tech stuff. Sinclair said that they should all head to the lighthouse together. Dr. kal'tsit needed to head somewhere else. Amir would accompany them. Irene was confused. After all that, she was going off on her own. Dr. kal'tsit was going to join the Doctor in order to ensure success of the mission, which also hinges on Amir and Skadi remaining behind to assist the rest of the team. She'll leave it up to all of them to get the lighthouse back. To take it back, rather. Dante caught the specific wording asking if it's been taken over. Faust saw that as likely. Dr. kal'tsit wanted a translation, and Amir did so. Dr. kal'tsit was mildly impressed by this, saying that it's likely taken over by sea terrors. Mayers said that it wasn't overrun as far as she was aware, but she did encounter them a few times when she approached it too closely. Dr. kal'tsit didn't see their numbers as normally enough to attempt to raid a lighthouse, but she asked them if there are any limitations to the arrival of the damned dozen. Faust answered that as long as Dante is alive, there are none, although battle efficiency decreases with prolonged battles due to the mental stress on Dante. Dr. kal'tsit didn't see any changes of plan necessary, telling Amir to use the communication device she gave her to alert her once she's able to identify the coordinates of the vessel from the lighthouse. It should hopefully reduce the time it takes to complete the retrieval mission. Irene won't stop her from leaving as long as the others remain with her. Dante saw that they should be fine as well. Amir commenced mission Vessel Masses Retrieval. Heathcliff understood step 1 is the raft and they needed to get on with it. Skadi saw it as done. They should go. Otis looks at them. Sinclair asked what was bothering her. She looked at them like that. She said to Sinclair, must he ask? Amir is proactive and quick, seeing her professional standards. Amir thanking her for the charitable view. Since Skadi made a raft of them, they should move on to step 2. As for the Iberian Golden Age, that's a time when Iberia had a grand navy, shining lighthouses, and had good diplomatic ties to the Aegea, who also advanced Iberia's technology. Ironically, the profound silence changed that. The devastation, combined with the Church of the Deep's attacks, along with the Seaborn, resulted in the Inquisition filling the void of the collapsed government, making Iberia a religious, totalitarian, and xenophobic country, tightly controlling the population, persecuting the Aegea. The Golden Age is clearly long since past. Well, it looks like they have a plan, and they'll need a fight to carry it out. Until next time, hail the rabbits!